uh, recording in progress, and also an engineer at Instajam, which was a mobile on-device jamming detection software. So quite a cool background. I mean, yeah, Felicia, it's great to have you here. Talking about Cega, the exotics derivatives protocol for Web3 investors, and would love to just start with like a 101 on Cega and what are exotic derivatives.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for having me. So we're a decentralized exotic derivatives protocol. What that means for you as a user is that if you have stablecoin like USDC and you want to stake it somewhere that offers safer and higher yield, we fill that niche. So specifically like exotic derivatives, I don't know how familiar people are with like calls or puts or vanilla options, kind of, maybe.
Start from the very beginning, like we're 5 years old.
Yeah. So if you have like a stock like Apple or Tesla, right? And you want to bet on if the price is going to go up or down, you can buy or sell pulls or puts or calls. And so that's kind of like the basic vanilla derivatives. And you can go on like any exchange and do that. Exotic derivatives are like the layer on top of that. So basically, if you bundle together these different puts and calls and you add kind of like other features here and there, and that's kind of what we do. So for users, it's kind of like a more flexible, customized investment.
Awesome. Yeah, and would love to hear more about like what that layer is on top of puts and calls. I was going into your docs, but I'm sure you can explain it better than I can.
Yeah, for sure. So different types of exotic derivatives. The one that we've built out first specifically is a fixed coupon note with knock-in barriers. So like this actually exists in traditional finance right now. For context, I have three other co-founders. One of them, she was a trader for a couple years at a bank in APAC, and this is like one of the most popular structured products that they traded. So basically how it works is it's kind of like a bond. So you as a user, you put in some money and you're promised a fixed yield after a certain amount of time. So for us, it's like about a month, which means that you're guaranteed, like we call these daily coupon payments, that yield. And then the risk is that your principal, depending on how the market moves, you may or may not lose some of it. And you only lose principal though if the price of the market falls below a certain threshold. So that's why it's protected. So normally if you're just like, straight up buying Google stock or something and Google goes down, you're losing that amount. For us, we have a threshold, say 50%, that says, okay, Google stock must drop by 50% before you lose any amount of your original investment.
Got it. And so if crypto prices drop by, and say the downside protection is 30%, does that mean I, as the investor, get 70% back of what I invested? Is that how it would work?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you promise a certain yield, which is, okay, you're getting 7% to invest into this product, and it's over a month, and we're going to be paying you daily interest for that.
Yeah.
However, if those underlying crypto assets then drop below this price, a very certain price, unfortunately you lose a bit, but you don't lose all of it. So you've got protection there.
Exactly. Yeah.
What was like how did the story begin for Cega? Like, where did it all begin for you and the team?
Yeah, so I'm based in SF now, but before that I was actually nomadic. And was working at my last job. I was actually living in Lisbon during fall of 2021. Had no idea about the crypto space, no interest in it. Happens that I guess people know, a lot of conferences were going on then. My co-founders, Arissa, she was at a crypto company before and was there for the conference. We just ended up meeting at a party and kept in touch. Our other two co-founders, they're actually twins. They went through Y Combinator in the 2020 batch, and so they had been looking to pivot into crypto, but just kind of getting like a feel for it. Arissa met them at another conference in New York. And so I think about, yeah, winter, like November, December 2021, we decided it might be fun to actually build something together. At that time, like, you know, it's just after DeFi summer, DEXs and vanilla options were just getting built out. And we realized, well, the like next natural evolution for that would be exotics, since like that's dependent on having vanillas being done.
Yeah, also, and I mean, so your background is being much more in like autonomous technologies in defense, Apple. So yeah, where in terms of finance, who was the person who was like, okay, I've got this kind of this finance idea? Because you're the tech side, like who came in with that piece?
Yeah, for sure. So Arissa actually like she was a trader at UBS for a couple of years. She was on exotic derivatives desk, so she was actively like trading this product, and then she moved into marketing and other things. But I also actually was I say computer science and economics. I uh did do like a slight foray into the banking world before realizing that tech would be a little funner. So I had like some familiarity as well with finance.
Got you.
Uh,
So you saw what she was talking about, and you thought that'd be a great
yeah, it'd be
field.
cool. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
And so, is there any other like platform building this? Like, how have you like really differentiated yourself and your mission against, I suppose, competitors?
Yeah, for sure. So, like, our mission is to create superior, flexible, and diversified investment opportunities. We were actually the first to offer principal protected fixed coupon notes. And so now there are other protocols who are kind of like trying to move in the same area, but um, it is really hard just because the amount of like financial knowledge and sophistication required. Uh, it's pretty difficult to have that knowledge if you haven't worked at like a traditional big bank before. So just things like how to price, right? Like when you're this gets like quite technical, but when you're pricing like puts or calls, you just use like there's a formula called Black-Scholes where you just kind of like plug numbers in. Exotics are different because you have to do like different Monte Carlo simulations and other ways to price. So like it's quite mathy, and if you're like not used to it, haven't had an experience, you won't know like what's the fair market value of this product or kind of on the risk level, right? Like how to hedge it, how to trade it. So those are some of the things that, yeah, are quite difficult.
And this is like the, I suppose, the key to unlock this whole product even further, which is, you know, this because it's not regulated as an industry, you're able to offer something that's quite special to everyone, not just institutional investors. But to do that, you have to tell them what exotic derivatives are, and that
Yeah.
is that's a very hard piece. So how what's the kind of the makeup of your current user base in terms of institutional versus retail?
Yeah, I would say like bulk of the TVL is from institutional, but that's just as like a pure function of like institution investors have more capital, right? But we care like very deeply, strongly about our retail base. And I mean, building out the original mission is that, you know, right now, like if you're a high net worth individual, you are able to buy fixed coupon notes like at a bank, right? But you have to buy a single one and it's probably like 250K USD. So it's not accessible to like everyday retail users. And that was one of the things that we want to bring to everyone.
Awesome. And so when it comes to like even down to your marketing, how are you managing to find these different user groups? Like what does that actually go, what does that look like?
Yeah, for sure. So a big thing is just like transparency, communication, and trust, right? I think what's really difficult in DeFi and the crypto space in general is that, you know, people are worried for good reason about getting rugged, getting scammed. If something seems too good to be true or you don't understand where the yield is coming from, like that's always a bit suspicious and really tough, right? So what we really try to focus and care about is that, when you put your money with us, we want you to understand like how exactly is the yield being generated? What is the risk for you? Like when would you potentially lose your part of your investment, and like what exactly your exposure to the market is.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, like you want to be able to offer a product that clearly can give really high yields, but they have to
Yeah,
understand it and the risks associated to that. But yeah, it's something which has to be explained in certain detail. Like
yeah,
what would you say like because DeFi as a whole is quite confusing for people. Like if you think about
yeah,
the usual loans that people are used to, it's a mortgage or it's a
yeah.
business loan. DeFi is in itself its own category. What are the biggest challenges and obstacles that you're seeing, I suppose, more generally in DeFi and adoption?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like we're still super, super early in this space. And so it is like a self-selected kind of group of people who are finding us and who are exploring DeFi. So obviously, down the line, like we do want, every person on the street to like have a wallet and stake and invest. But like realistically right now it's more of like DeFi native, DeFi sophisticated people who are finding us. And for us, like what's important is that okay, at least like, these group of people, like they understand where the yield is coming from. They feel they can trust us. If they look through our docs, like they can understand what's going on. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. I suppose, it's been very clear how CeFi is generally not the way forward for Web3. Have you seen tailwinds, I suppose, for DeFi, or is it almost too soon to see this because the markets in general have fallen? FTX was for the first domino. The whole industry is taking a hit. It's not just CeFi, it's DeFi as well because it's intrinsically related in a way.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah, definitely the entire industry has taken a hit. I would say like, I mean, on a macro level, right? Just the image of crypto after FTX, like most people don't really know the distinction between like CeFi and DeFi unless you're in this space. So for them, they just like saw FTX, saw crypto, and they just kind of wrote off the entire industry. Um, for like us specifically, like, a lot of DeFi protocols, including us, we trade with market makers, uh, very closely tied with FTX and Alameda. And so a lot of like the contagion effects we're still seeing right now, where a lot of market makers, yeah, kind of
It's
going bust or unable to pay back loans and kind of being, yeah,
Yeah, and these are always the moments that crypto, like most critics come out of the woodwork when things are down and not going so well. But you always have those polarized like individuals. You've got like Larry Fink, BlackRock saying tokenization is going to be the future of securities. And like you've got the CEO of the largest trillion, whatever, 8 trillion worth fund in the world. And then you've got the likes of Charlie Munger, who's basically like really, really opposing crypto right now. One of his interviews was quite
yeah,
funny. But yeah, it's very, very polarized, and these are the moments when things do kind of take a turn, and I suppose we recenter and find how we can fix things. How are you guys fixing things in terms of like what your technical challenges at the moment at Cega? Like what you have to overcome, I suppose, as a software engineer to make this product work?
yeah, for sure. So right now we're only on Solana. When we first started, we were just building on that. The current big project is that we're actually going to be launching on Ethereum next month. And part of that transition is as a result of like the current space of Solana DeFi, um, and what our market makers kind of are asking for. But yeah, when we first built on Solana like a year ago, it was a super nascent developer ecosystem. So just kind of a lot of things you take for granted right now, right? Be able to go on Stack Overflow, look up anything. You can depend on your dependencies and libraries. You have testing frameworks, like none of these things existed. Kind of the best resource at that time was you had to literally like go in the Discord channel for Solana devs and kind of control F and hope that like someone had asked the same question you had before, just because everything was moving so quickly. I think like literally as we were building, the framework we were using was upgraded twice. Yeah, and it was like not backwards compatible. So it's just like you were kind of building the airplane as you're flying it kind of thing. So like I think it's gotten better now, but I mean, yeah, for example, when we first started, like debugging was a really tough thing. You would kind of hit an error and actually what would spit out in your console was just like a hex string. And we had to like kind of figure out, okay, what do we do with this? What does this mean? So like how to figure out that, okay, you have to decode from hex to binary. You get this number and it turns out like that number corresponded with the line number in your errors.rs file that mapped to like the actual error code. Yeah, so things like that is really, it's like being in like an escape room or whatever. You're like constantly solving puzzles and yeah, not much help you can get. And
I
then
suppose
things that like bite size limits, account constraints, how to future proof, and security is like very critical, right? Because when you're programming for smart contracts, like once it's out, it's out. And especially when you're dealing with user funds, right? Like really there's zero room for error. It's not like, oh, like you can have, you know, multiple database replicas or push fixes here and there. You really, really have to be careful about making sure every single line is safe.
this is a massive part of our ethos. It's why we started with
Yeah.
senior engineers, and it's why we wanted to work with, you know, companies like yourself who are building products like this that are quite advanced, because, you know, senior engineers who already have the foundational knowledge of computer science or cryptography or you know, just foundational languages, whether it's, you know, Scott, Drupal, or through to like, you know, just C++, having those individuals who can then have learned the practices and best practice just to do code properly and well is what really takes to do that. And you guys being pioneers in that kind of Solana ecosystem and pushing ahead, I suppose it's quite scary to be the first ones doing that. At the same time, it's like, what a feat that you guys had to find out yourself and then leave the breadcrumbs for other people to then get into the community and learn how to build that stuff. So, you know, I imagine it's quite rewarding.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you. Yeah, it's like very exciting, but I mean, it is like stressful, right? I mean, it was not kind of like an easy walk in the park. Like this time last year, Vic, one of my other technical co-founder, like both of us were in SF. We basically lived out of the Solana office. We were there kind of like 7 days a week until 3 a.m., 4 a.m., just like grinding, trying to, you know, whiteboard things out, figure out why things are failing. And it definitely was frustrating and scary. And we didn't know if we were going to make it or not.
Yeah, such as the startup journey that
Yeah.
we're on. I
Yeah.
mean, I suppose, yeah, what, you know, you've come so far. What are the plans going forward? Like, you know, how are you expanding the platform? What's next for your products?
Yeah. So first big thing is just launching on Ethereum mainnet end of this quarter. So our eng team has grown a lot. We're at 6 people now. So much better than it was just me and Vic last year. So as we're expanding onto more chains, we're also just doing like more financial engineering. So probably a little bit of alpha, probably be announcing something, yeah, in the next few weeks as well, for the next product.
Awesome. Okay, we'll keep our ears out for that one.
Yeah.
Nice one. And
I was interested to know, like, what it's been like moving across to Ethereum. Has it been as technically challenging as it was initially building on Solana? And for you personally, having not been even particularly interested in crypto prior to 2021, what was it like learning learning smart contract development from scratch, and as you say, putting it to work in such a complex manner?
Yeah, for sure. I would say going to Solana first really was like chewing glass in the deep end. So anything after that, moving on Ethereum has been much, much smoother. Big news is like there's a, it's a much more like mature developer community, lots of docs, lots of help we can get, a lot more Solidity programmers as well. Like when we were looking for Rust and Solana programmers, like that did not really exist at the time. So it's been amazing, like meeting so many people who've built so many cool products already on Ethereum that, we can learn best practices from and get advice on. In terms of, yeah, going from like Web 2 to Web 3, yeah, it was really tough. One of the things is just like Solana programming itself, you can just kind of throw out everything you know about like traditional object-oriented programming. Everything is account-based. So the fundamental way you kind of like think about architecture and design stuff is very, very different. There's no classes or anything that you can work with. I mean, honestly, it was just, a lot of time, a lot of grinding. Actually, like part of the reason why we went to SF to be in the Solana office was to try to find other like Solana programmers. I think like especially starting out, one thing that's super helpful is just having that community that you can learn together and build together. So, if you can physically be there, that's awesome. But even just like having some online community, people that might have run into the same issues that you can like ask all your like dumb questions to, that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I can imagine. It's very interesting. Like we spoke to the grant team at Solana because we're planning on building out a Solana curriculum.
Amazing. Yeah.
And they were like, 85% of developers in Solana space are only in Solana. Like they're saying that they haven't gone any elsewhere, which is an interesting stat to pull out. But I assume, smart developers will go to Solana because they have a certain product they want to build, and that's because they went to Solana for its certain properties. So there's a reason why they've stayed in that ecosystem as opposed to like moving around. But now Ethereum is getting cheaper with like layer 2s and things. Like you can see why there now will be this kind of slow migration out of that.
Yeah.
But he pulled that one out. And we're like, that is really interesting that people have really stayed. Once you've joined, you kind of get used to it.
Yeah. I would say like super tight knit, super friendly community. Yeah. Like and some office is closed now, but spent a lot of time there last year, and it really was just like the energy. Like you go when people are always like, people would have their offsites NSF to have their dev team go to the office. Since a lot of people just working out there, everyone's super social, really friendly always. Everyone's like building their own. It's like a WeWork where everyone is like building a project in the same space.
And I suppose just to jump in more generally, then just taking a step back. So, what are you currently thinking about the state of DeFi? Like, what do you think's going to be happening next? I suppose you also, in the context of Cega, good to kind of get this kind of macro perspective on all of it.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say like number one priority for DeFi in general right now is just like building and rebuilding that user trust. And then kind of like a natural progression or evolution after that, making it more accessible to the wider public. So right now, right, like if you just pick someone off randomly from the streets and you plop them in, tell them to like go stake somewhere, first, like just terminology wise, like staking, unstaking, stable coin, whatever, like that's all jargon to most people. They have no idea what that means. Like they don't even know how to start. So it's, I think just, not even like DeFi, but the on-ramp into Web3, learning the vernacular, learning kind of how the different like pieces all play together. That's something that I think like I would love to see more growth on. For us specifically, like trust and DeFi has always been a huge thing. Like, you are taking user deposits and investing and trading with them. You need your users to, feel that safe and trust, and for them to want to basically like partner with you.
Sure. And if you already are a crypto investor, you're willing to be a part of a high risk market.
Yeah.
And so why wouldn't you be willing to try out a different type of making return when actually it's a slightly protected way of doing it, as opposed to just going all out crypto? So no, it makes sense. You guys have clearly focused on the UX UI of your platform. Do you see this as and it is a very common thread, but do you think this is a major hindrance to DeFi moving forward?
Yeah, I would say like UI UX for retail, like very, very important, right? If you go on, like the first thing you like click on someone's website is you look at, how it's laid out, like, and your immediate reaction, right? Like, do I understand what to do? If it's like a lot of buttons everywhere, a lot of steps, looks really complicated, you kind of like, don't really want to think about it and figure it out. You just kind of like bookmark it for later and maybe like may or may not get back to it. For us, when we're thinking about our user journey, like, especially me, I was, super new to crypto at that time. And when I was looking at how other protocols were like building out, I felt that same sense of like overwhelmingness, where you go on somewhere, you're hit with a wall of text that what like half the words mean, like it's kind of unclear what you're investing in, what the graphs and everything mean. And so we were really looking for like a simplified user journey where you go in, everything's like laid out very, very clearly and kind of like plain English. And like it's like 2 buttons, you deposit and you withdraw, and you know how much money you are getting.
I do really think that Cega, compared to the rest of the market, has managed to build like, and we discussed this before the call, but what you put on your branding, your experience so far is very, very simple, and it's also very playful, which is kind of weird because most of your investors are institutional as opposed to your modern day, just kind of day-to-day investor. In terms of like the strategies you guys build, like who devises those? Is it Harissa? Like is it a team effort? Yeah, would love to hear about it.
So we have a small trading team that we're like actually still looking to grow out right now. When we first started, it was Arissa, since she had the trading background. But we have another trader, JP, that's our head trader now. And yeah, he's like based in Paris. He's been he's been at a big bank for the last 15 years, pretty much, trading exotic derivatives.
Got you. I see. So
yeah.
got a couple of traders. We've got a couple of questions here, and there's actually one from Peyton that I didn't actually read. Sorry, Peyton. Are you guys creating derivatives of only stocks, but also of only cryptos, but also stocks? Question mark.
Right now only crypto, yeah, but future pipeline.
Cool.
That's something we've been considering, yeah.
In the future, okay. And then we've got Shashank. Does Cega earn money from market making and arbitrage trading at all?
No, we earn money just from like standard performance and yield fee.
Cool. Oh, Peyton, creating derivatives of stocks might be considered a security. That's why I was asking.
Yeah.
That might be where you got to draw the line. Cool. And in terms of like the security measures behind all of this, and what steps are you taking? Because as you mentioned before, if you've got completely cataclysmic, what are you guys doing in the background?
Before anything is ever deployed to production, we go through like a full audit cycle with 2 auditors. So that's actually like, we just kicked off our audit for Ethereum earlier this week. But yeah, I mean, we actually spent a lot of time going through auditors and picking the best ones, essentially, since like some of the big ones you just like kind of rubber stamp, but we don't want that, right? We want people that are actually like high touch, looking at the code, asking questions, like very strong kind of like comp sci, hacky backgrounds. Yeah. So it's one of the big things, and obviously, like, you know, we're always kind of watching Twitter, watching the news. If there is like a big security hack or breach for other protocol, we'll always look into that, kind of see what happened, make sure that, you know, we're not repeating any of the same mistakes. And then, yeah, just continuing like with kind of best security practices, have things in cold storage, like, you know, make sure that only people that should have access to certain things have access. So all those kind of like general practices.
Is all of the smart contract development done in-house and then given to the auditor, or did you use other sources as well?
In-house, yeah.
Cool, got you.
Impressive. I'm sorry, I'm conscious that we've just got 5 or 6 minutes left, and I know you briefly mentioned about kind of the future of Cega just a moment ago. But I suppose, particularly with the move to, which I suppose traditionally has more DeFi around, like how are you looking to the future of Cega? How are you going to stay ahead of the curve? And do you imagine that over time you might become more Ethereum based, or do you expect it's kind of they will coexist together?
Yeah, I would guess we will probably end up being more Ethereum based, but we are coexisting right now. I think we'll launch and kind of, you know, see how it goes in general. Like traditionally there is higher TVL, more users, more institutional investors and retail users on Ethereum, and that's ultimately like the users that we want to be serving.
Sure.
And into the future, you know, regulations, complete uncertainty. The role of government in that is complete uncertainty. You know, this is a complex product that anyone can access. Is that top of your mind, thinking about how, you know, how you're going to navigate this? Are you thinking about almost by geography where you want to be providing your services to, where you think it's the more safe than others, and if so, where?
Yeah, definitely. Always something on our mind. Don't want to end up on like the front page of the Wall Street Journal for the wrong reasons there. But yeah, like when we were first starting out and, you know, doing our corporate structuring, like we had lots and lots of discussions of where we wanted to be based. And, you know, with like 4 co-founders total, all remotely distributed, and a couple of us are like, you know, US citizens or green card holders, it is tricky. Yeah, like landscape is evolving. We're obviously like, you know, not based in the States, which helps a lot. Right now, like Arissa's splitting time between Singapore and Japan. She's kind of like working with some policymakers, and so she's Japanese, so she's kind of working with some policymakers there. But I mean, in general, yeah, we've just kind of been absorbing the developments and adjusting as needed based on recommendations from our lawyers.
Got you. Yeah, Japan, because they've had so many big hiccups, they've really now putting in like, they're almost leading the industry, like the whole industry in terms of regulation, because they wanted to cut straight away and put in rules in place so you can build this kind of innovation. So that makes sense. I mean, awesome. It's really exciting how you guys are progressing. We hope all the best, that, you know, things are more liberal than cut off in terms of the future. But I think overall it's super exciting to have you as a hiring partner and offering something that's completely different to what we see out there in DeFi. So, you know, thanks so much for joining the call. Are there any other questions before Felicia and yeah, the call finishes?
Yeah, I just have one question to ask. So since you were working in Apple before, like coming to this space, in the Web3 space, the development on which side did you find like more interesting? Definitely Web3 has an upper hand because you're currently working here, but like in terms of everything, in terms of organization, in terms of the structuring and all, which space was like more interesting?
Oh, 100% Web3. Yeah. I think if you're looking for something that's, fast pace, a lot of high energy, a lot of building, always kind of go, 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 then yeah, easy choice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
I have a question. So, for example, right now in most of the countries, like there's no regulation about the crypto products. Like we don't know what is legal or not because there's no regulation at all. So, like, how does someone decide while say starting a project whether it will be legal or not? Like, what were your challenges faced by your company uh, across different geographies as well? Like, what are the different legal nuances and how do you navigate them?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely kind of like a gray area. I think like starting off, the most important decision probably is like where you're going to incorporate your company, because that's kind of where all the legal risks are based out of. So we did a lot of discussions with different lawyers and protocols in the space to kind of see how they navigated that. And then from that onwards, it's, you have your lawyers to, like, it's super dependent on first, like where you're based, where your team is physically as well, and kind of what you're doing, right? And then based on that, you can get your recommendation advice from your lawyer, and then it's kind of up to you what your risk tolerance is for that.
yeah,
And
crypto.
from the perspective of an investor or a user, like how do I know, like if I'm investing in something, like what profits are considered as taxable, what rules are applied there? Because it might seem very complex for investors. So like from the perspective of an investor, how do we look at it? How should we look at it?
Yeah. Like, yeah, also like taxes completely dependent on what country you're in. So that's kind of tough. I know at least in the States, they're still trying to figure out like how to do it for crypto. DeFi in particular is hard, right? Because there's no KYC or anything. So yeah, I mean, no great answer there. I think in the past year, there's been more companies and more people who've been trying to kind of like formalize that process. But I think it has been just like one of those things that we are actively watching like grow and evolve in real time and being part of that.
Yeah, I think the UK has just kind of taken a quite simple route and just said we're going to charge the same capital gains taxes, and like that's the best way to go for now. So it's super simple, but who knows how that will evolve over time. I mean, what we do know is just like crypto accountants, but mainly lawyers, are really hot right now. Like crypto,
Yeah.
a lot of coin. But thank God they're there for moments like this, so you can figure it out. Cool. I mean, if that's it, guys, thanks all for coming. Felicia, thank you so much for joining. We love what you're doing, and yeah, hopefully have you guys on again.
Yeah, I know, this is amazing. Thanks so much for hosting. It's great getting to meet everyone.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All the best. See you guys. Cheers.
All right. Thanks everyone. Bye.